A555ers, Andrew here. It's getting close to the end of the mountain bike season here in Minnesota. Very sad. What I wanted to do in this video was give you a rundown of my main rig this season. I had the privilege of being an MCA coach with my son Leo racing in high school this year, and so I was doing a lot of XC riding, and my choice was doing an all aluminum build of the Specialized Chisel FS. Those of you that know the Specialized Chisel FS is basically the Specialized Epic, but with aluminum for its material rather than carbon, but very similar geometry overall. And so I was very interested in this because first of all, it was a huge cost savings over the Epic, but also because it was really an interesting frame. This frame is a Specialized M5 frame, which is their nicest aluminum, and it has Dialuzio smart welds, which is a welding technology that has a lot of weight savings. So what you have here is Specialized first dedicated aluminum XC rig in a long time. And so this is a single flex pivot design, and as you can see, the stays in the back are very small and tapered. And currently this bike, the way that it's been built, weighs in at 26.5 pounds, and the entire bike is aluminum. So we're going to go through the whole bike, talk about how I got that weight. When I first got this bike, this is the base model Chisel FS, and it weighed in at about 31.5 pounds, and I was not happy about that. Wasn't satisfied, and so I ended up replacing basically everything on this bike except for the brakes and the dropper post. And so I'll explain everything that I changed on this bike, and we'll just start from the inside out. This bike has a 470-degree reach, and with the standard configuration this bike comes with, I think it's really quite stretched out, and that is nice on descents. But this is definitely not as nimble as some of the older XC rigs that I'm used to riding. So after slamming the seat forward, I still am feeling a little bit stretched out here. So I do have actually a shorter Trail 1 stem that I'm going to be replacing this Raceface FX stem with. Took the Specialized stem off. Honest mistake, when we were assembling the bike, it got kind of damaged. We were just messing around and it got messed up, so I had to replace the stem. But anyway, like the frame overall, haven't had to replace the X-Fusion shock. Been generally happy with that, have no issues or concerns with that. I do have a small air pump here and just a Specialized plastic water bottle cage. And even with the mud and the pedals and everything, this is 26.5 pounds, which is pretty awesome. This is a Trans-X dropper post, and I've been very happy with it. It's perfectly fit for my size and is lightweight. I don't see a need to replace it. Just a standard Specialized power seat. It's been fine. I don't feel a need to replace that. I do like the shorter style of the seat. Talking a little bit more about some other major changes here. The major change that I made was I completely upgraded the drivetrain. It came with SX cranks and a square tapered bottom bracket, and then an NX derailleur and cassette. That was all where the weight was and the cost savings on the base model of this, and so I just bought a fresh out-of-box GX full drivetrain, and then I had to replace the bottom bracket with a threaded bottom bracket in order to get the GX cranks to work, and so I got I splurged a little bit there and got a wolf tooth bottom bracket, and that's been flawless. I'm a bigger guy. This is a light bike. I thought a nice bottom bracket would be nice. I've been very happy with the GX drivetrain. The only upgrade I made to the GX drivetrain is an XO shifter, which runs on bearings compared to the GX, which is more of friction. And I did upgrade moving to the cockpit. I have Trail 1 Crockett bars here, wolf tooth grips, wolf tooth bar ends, and a wolf tooth dropper post. I've been running the Level T brakes the whole season with the stock rotors, and these stock rotors have been fine. So far the brakes have been pretty good. I do think that I would like to upgrade to a 4-piston setup or at least larger rotors in the future, 180 in the front and 160 in the rear. I did have to replace the pads near the end of the season, and I went with sintered pads, and that did seem to help. But the SRAM Level T brakes, I like the feel of them. They don't have the power that I would like, especially with my weight. I'm 200 pounds. So in terms of the biggest change, for sure, the GX drivetrain and then upgrading to the cockpit are where the most notable changes are in this build. The place where the biggest weight savings, though, in addition to the drivetrain, was probably in the wheels and fork. And as you can see, this is a RockShox SID Ultimate fork. It says SL on the sticker, but it's actually just an Ultimate. I got this used secondhand, and the weight savings was at least a pound straight away from the stock fork that came on it. The other upgrade that I did is I didn't like the Specialized wheels on them for weight, and also because with the NX cassette that came on this bike, it actually had a Shimano hub and a Shimano driver, and so we had to, in upgrading to the full Eagle drivetrain, get an Eagle or an XD driver. That would either have to go on the Specialized wheels or just find a set of wheels that had an XD driver with them, and that's what I did. These are the Hunt Race XC wheels. These are their lightest aluminum wheels, kind of keeping in the spirit of the build of choosing lightweight aluminum parts. The interesting thing about these rims is they have a relatively narrow internal width. I believe it's 24 millimeters. And what you get there is a ton of weight savings. These wheels, I'll put the weight up there, but I think they're around 1,400 grams. And so as light as many carbon wheels out there. My experience with these wheels, definitely the fastest aluminum wheels that I've been on, but they definitely are also not the sturdiest aluminum wheels I've been on. In fact, I had a spoke that came loose, and it needed the rear wheel retention at the end of the season. And in general, I'm happy with the wheels. They haven't failed. I would like a slightly wider internal width, because what I have found is that it kind of rounds the tires off. And these are not the most aggressive tires either. This is another place where I was trying to save some weight. I've got an Air Track in the back, which is a very lightweight racy tire. And then I've actually got an S-Works Renegade in the front, which has a little bit more knobs, but is still an extremely lightweight tire. This tire combination is very fast and was great in kind of hero dirt conditions where I didn't have to worry a lot about traction, especially trying to keep up with high schoolers. That was challenging. But I did find that I was wishing for more traction, and especially more support kind of in aggressive turning. And so I'm going to be upgrading these for sure to something else next season, even if there's a little bit of a weight penalty, just so that I can have a little more confidence with slightly more aggressive tires. Probably will be going with another set of Specialized tires. We do like those, but I also run Maxxis tires on other bikes and like those very much. I guess the only other things to mention is I do have a set of old Ritchie pedals on here. Running clipless has been great. Yeah, at one point I was running Whiskey carbon handlebars on here that were a little creaky and sketching me out, and that did bring the weight down to about 26 pounds square. But as it is, 26 versus 26 and a half, you can't really feel the difference. And for a bike this large, really a nice weight, very comfortable. One last thing I wanted to mention, I did ride wrap this bike, and ride wrapping an aluminum bike is kind of a, scratch your head type of decision, but it has a beautiful paint job. This burgundy paint job is really nice. And, there's so many matte black bikes out there. Preserving the paint on this, it was something I don't regret doing at all, even though it was an extra $100 or something to get the ride wrap on it. Final thoughts about this bike. This is a really good bike for an MCA coach because it's just been pretty dead nuts reliable. It's not the fastest or the coolest bike on the course. It never was intended to be that. It's going to be part of my coaching bike quiver, I think, just as a reliable bike that I have. In terms of riding qualities, I find this bike actually pretty mellow to ride. With the relatively steep head angle on this, I think it's at 67%, and it does have a flip shift on it, which I've never messed with. Very capable on descents, not bad on climbs at all, definitely not squirmy or anything like a more aggressive trail or enduro bike. But I think especially with the tires being configured the way they are not as confidence-inspiring as I would like. I'd like to get maybe starter tires and brakes on this and see if I can be a little more aggressive with this bike. It still has a little bit of that XC daintiness about it that makes me definitely fine sending it on small features, but any kind of big jumps or drops, it just felt a little sketchy, or really aggressive descending, which isn't really important when you're doing MCA coaching or doing high school coaching anyway. and so it isn't the main thing I'm looking for. What's next for this bike? I'll probably still continue to experiment with the cockpit, change the tires, I mentioned that. The truth is though, is I am kind of yearning for a more playful XC bike, and so the next bike you'll be probably seeing on this channel from me is I recently got an Evil Following frame, and that is a completely different bike in terms of geometry and intent of design, and so I'm hoping that that's going to be a fun bike. I actually bought it in medium because I think I'll like it being sized down a little bit to be a little more playful. Next bike that you're going to see on the channel that I'm really excited about and I want to mention to you is my son is actually building up an Epic S-Works 7, so the previous gen S-Works. He got a beautiful like new frame that we're building up from scratch, and that bike is going to be a real ripper. That's going to be his race bike next year, and so I do plan on doing a video on that build as well. Yeah, we have a couple Specialized XC bikes in the fleet, and this is a nice, reliable, simple bike coming in with the MCA discounts at right around $2,000 for a complete bike. I was able to use a lot of the parts in this build on some of my kids' bikes when I had takeoffs. It wasn't hard to justify paying for the upgrades. And the way that it's upgraded is pretty close to how I would configure it. The only way you could really save weight more at this point is moving to carbon parts, which is sort of against the spirit of this build. It's kind of neat having an all aluminum bike that weighs 26 pounds with modern geometry. And with a couple small changes like tires and maybe changing the stem, I'm going to be very happy with this bike, and I think it's going to serve its continued purpose as a coach's bike very well. All right, I just want to thank you guys so much for tuning in. I really enjoyed showing you this bike in detail and allowing you to kind of go through my build and philosophy of what I'm using this bike for. I think that I'd love to hear what you would do with a bike like this, and if you've built up a Specialized Chisel, make sure to let me know what you did below. Thanks a lot. Make sure to hit subscribe and like if you got to this point in the video.